There were three things Frank Delaney despised more than overcooked meatloaf: leaf blowers before dawn, Carl Henderson's sanctimonious clipboard, and signs dictating where he could tread on the land he'd called home for 52 years. So, when a shiny new no-entry sign appeared outside his backyard gate, bolted into the Elmwood Lane sidewalk like a declaration of war, Frank didn't waste words. Shirtless, in faded checkered boxers, he scratched his chest with a garden trowel and muttered, "Time to drop the box." 3 days earlier, his 17-year-old granddaughter, Sarah, caught him cursing at a sprinkler like it had personally betrayed him. She barely blinked. Classic Frank. But when she passed the fence and saw the sign, bold white letters screaming, "No entry, private property, HOA enforced," her phone slipped from her hand. This wasn't just any gate. It was their daily path to the town square, the bus stop, and Sarah's shortcut home from school. To her, it was freedom. To the Elmwood Homeowners Association, it was a battlefield. Carl Henderson, the HOA's self-appointed czar of curb appeal, had been after Frank since last spring, when Frank's plastic flamingo invasion turned the community garden into a pink spectacle. Frank called it art. Carl cited HOA Rule 7.22. The flamingos vanished, and Frank's grudge grew roots. When Sarah showed him the sign, Frank's single nod was colder than a divorce lawyer's handshake. He retreated to the garage, and the clanging began. Blueprints spilled across the dining table, some yellowed, some fresh, one labeled Elmwood Phase 1, 1971, with coffee stains, another marked Frank's exit strategy in red ink. Sarah realized her grandpa wasn't just mad. He was plotting. By morning, a crane truck roared into the driveway, driven by Bobby Crane Malone, a grizzled buddy from Frank's mysterious past, maybe the Marines, maybe a bar fight league. On the flatbed sat a rust-red shipping container, dented and faintly tagged with the word justice in what looked like Russian. Carl arrived 30 minutes later, clipboard in hand, trailed by his wife, their yapping terrier, and a tripod-mounted camera. "This is illegal," he bellowed, his voice quivering with righteous fury. Frank handed him a scribbled note titled Elmwood Defiance Pact of 25. Carl sputtered, "If that container touches HOA land, you'll be sued into next century." Frank just grinned. "Drop it, Bobby." The container swung like a pendulum, then landed with a glorious crunch, flattening the sign into scrap. Sarah's video of the moment, posted as "When HOA Met Grandpa," hit 6 million views in a day. Neighbors cheered, a pizza guy clapped, and Carl's terrier peed on his shoe. Frank sipped warm soda from a mug, reading "World's Okayest Grandpa," and said, "That'll teach him." Carl returned at dusk with cops, a news van, and a list of 17 alleged Frank infractions. Frank offered them meatloaf and pitched the container as an art piece called Suburban Suffocation. One cop nodded, intrigued. Carl lost it, screaming about vandalism. Frank leaned in, eyes gleaming. "No, Carl. This is retirement." The video went viral, spawning memes and t-shirts saying, "Drop the box, raise the flag." But as Sarah celebrated, she caught Frank staring at the container, his eyes heavy with something: regret, maybe, or secrets. "Why's that gate matter so much?" she asked. He paused. "Because your mom used to come through it every day after school, after college, after marriage. It's not just a gate. It's her." The container, now dubbed Maggie, after Frank's late wife, became a rebellion hub. Lawn chairs, a mini fridge, and an Elvis poster turned it into a clubhouse. Neighbors brought cookies and protest signs. Sarah's live streams, box talks, drew thousands. Carl fought back with citations and threats, but Frank's old property records showed the container sat 1 foot inside his line, untouchable. Carl called it an eyesore. Frank quoted Monet. Then came the attic. Under dusty boxes labeled Lawn War '01 and Carl's betrayal, Sarah found a locked cabinet. Inside was a map of Elmwood Lane, marked with tunnels, sewer points, and a red path through the gate. Next to it, an X labeled Project Oak. Frank exhaled. It was a bunker, kid. Me, Maggie, and some neighbors started it in the 70s, in case things got bad. Carl was one of us, before he turned coat. They dug in secret, under the guise of a vegetable garden. Sarah live-streamed it as Grandpa's Carrot Crusade. 3 days later, they found a trapdoor. Below, a room held faded Polaroids, a corkboard of HOA intel, and a photo of Maggie plotting Operation Hedge Clipper. Frank whispered, "Sometimes the past needs a sledgehammer." Carl doubled down, posting orange cones and a new sign, "Illegal structure under review." Frank countered with a sign reading, "Free Elmwood Zone. Leave tyranny at the cones." He dressed as Ben Franklin and read the Constitution atop Maggie, while Sarah played patriotic tunes. A podcaster called it suburbia's greatest uprising. A cryptic DM from HOA_truth_25 urged Sarah to ask about the map. Frank led her to the attic's secrets, revealing Project Oak's plan for an HOA-free zone. The gate was the last link to his original land grant, a legal loophole. They found the 1953 deed buried under a felled oak stump, proving Frank's claim. Sarah and Mrs. Evelyn Carter, a 90-year-old bingo queen and ex-Oak operative, stormed the town clerk's office. Evelyn slammed the deed down like a gavel. The clerk, flustered, started the heritage review. Carl panicked, hosting an HOA meeting with a slideshow, "Chaos on Elmwood." He pushed for lawn cameras and a gathering ban, but neighbors rebelled, painting "Long Live Maggie" on garages. Sarah's live streams swelled with donations. At Frank's hearing, Sarah spoke, voice trembling but firm, sharing the deed, Maggie's photos, and Frank's journal. "I don't need to win. I just need them to know I was here." Carl's rebuttal rant about wind chimes and individualism flopped. The council ruled for Frank. The gate was protected, the tunnels got temporary heritage status, and Carl resigned, moving to a stricter HOA in Florida. Neighbors cheered, waving flamingos. Frank's ankle monitor came off with a salute. Then, a twist. The HOA nominated Frank as president. He blinked, horrified, but the community rallied. Elected, he spoke from Maggie's roof, flamingo in hand, promising block parties and flamingo amnesty. The neighborhood partied, kids racing through Maggie's path, a gate arch named for Frank's wife. Sarah read her mom's poem, ending, "I like it best because Grandpa's there." Frank gifted Sarah a restored 1965 Mustang, hidden in Maggie's false wall. Tears fell as they hugged. The container stayed, wired with lights, filled with Polaroids of new memories, kids with gnomes, poetry nights, karaoke. Neighbors like Mr. Lopez taught gardening. Mrs. Park sang show tunes. Elmwood Lane wasn't just a street, Anna Maria, it was home. That night, Frank and Sarah sat on the porch, watching fireflies dance through the gate. "Thought the world stopped listening," Frank said, sipping from his grenade mug. Sarah leaned on him. "You made it here, you." A breeze toppled Carl's last no-entry sign, face down in the grass, gone for good. What do you think? Was Frank's rebellion a stand against injustice or a reckless act of defiance? Share your thoughts on fighting unfair rules in the comments below. Let's hear your stance.